Hello there guys, and welcome back to Let's Learn Civilization. I'm going to start off by ending the turn which we played through at the end of the last video. What I'm going to try and do in this video, while I'm playing the next few turns, is to explain the 5 types of victory conditions that you have in Civilization 5. Obviously, if anything significant or important happens in the game or on the map while I'm talking, I will kind of divert and sidetrack to draw your attention to it. But my main focus for this video is to get across the 5 types of victory condition. At the moment, I actually haven't decided what kind of win condition I want to go for. And the main reason for that is it's still very early days. I'm not really sure what the lay of the land is. I don't really know who's about and where. Obviously, I'm playing as Boudica and the Celts. So far, we've only ran into Bismarck and the German Empire, which is going to be somewhere down here in the bottom corner of the map, sort of southeast of me. We've bumped into some of his troops, but we haven't actually managed to find his lands. Hopefully we'll be doing that rather soon. So I like to have a rough idea of who's playing, who's on the board, before I know what type of victory that I plan to go for. In the meantime, we're just going to keep these warriors moving around in the hope we can find this barbarian camp, and we have, and it's archers, and they're probably going to start plinking at me very, very soon. But let's go to the next turn anyway. So, assuming that you have all of the victory types enabled, there are 5 different victory conditions. And there we go, we've just discovered trapping. Let's see if we can take these guys out. Minor victory. I'd be better off actually trying to take out the archers and get rid of the camp, to be honest, because at least getting rid of the camp will stop more from respawning. So, let's talk about the victory condition that I already mentioned during the start of the video, which is the time victory. Well, the condition that I mentioned at the start of the series, the time victory. And while we're doing that, I'm just quickly going to start researching calendar for the stoneworks and plantation. So the time victory is essentially if you get to turn 500, which is the year 2050 AD, if there is no winner, the winner is determined based on score. I think I referenced it a little bit like a boxing match. If there isn't a knockout by the 500th round, it goes to the judges. And you can see the score by clicking on this little scroll up in the top corner. And that will give you the additional information. As you can see, you've got quite a menu here of things you can choose from. And down towards the bottom, in alphabetical order, you've got victory progress. Now, this will show you here all of the other civilizations that are playing. You'll only be able to see who they are if you've actually met them. You can see the 4 other types of victory are actually listed here. You've got the domination, science, diplomatic, and cultural. Now, you can see the score here. 455 turns remaining, which is right because we've had 45 turns. That goes up to the 500th turn. And you can see my score here is 68. Now this is a good way of showing you what you actually get score from. You get score from the number of cities you have, and the size of the cities. You get score from the population, the number of land you own, the number of national and world wonders that you've constructed, the amount of tech you have, future tech, which is something you get if you completely sort of fill the technology tree. You can just keep researching the same thing over and over again to get more points, and I'll show you that later. Social policies, great works, which is from culture, and also from religion as well. At any time, if you click the details button up here, you'll actually be able to see all of the players and the score they have. So currently I'm only 4th on score. That's probably because I haven't really built any wonders yet. I've had a bit of a slow start. So that's how score works. Let's move my archers into place, and I might be able to have a pot shot or 2 at these barbarians on the next turn. So let's talk a little bit about the other types of victory, and I'm going to start with the scientific victory because that is probably the most straightforward and easiest of the other victory types. It's pretty much a straight race. It's very hard for someone else to counter a science victory unless they beat you to it in some way. or if they actually manage to attack you directly, because that's just about the only way you can actually sort of stop somebody from getting a science victory. Now I'm just going to move these composite bowmen forward 1 space. I've still got a 1 space gap in between myself and these barbarians here, but the good thing is the composite bowmen are a ranged unit, as it says at the bottom here. Now they have a strength and a ranged attack. The reason they have a strength is if they get attacked by a melee unit, it's the strength that is the figure that's used. If they get attacked by a ranged unit, then when ranged units attack each other, there's no retaliation. So, as I pointed out before, if a melee unit attacks a ranged unit, they still take damage. So when my warriors here attack these archers, they still took damage. Not much, because, you know, melee units are much more effective against ranged units. But if I take my composite bowman, I'm going to click this button here, which is ranged attack, and then you can see how far I can shoot, which is basically how far I can see. It's a little more limited in this direction because obviously the trees are in the way, but usually most things that have a ranged attack have a range of 2 spaces, 2 hexes. So I'm going to click on them. They'll take some damage from me, but because it's a ranged attack, I don't take any damage at all from them. Now, that would still work even if I was in the space next to them. Even if I'm in an adjacent space, it still counts as a ranged attack and I wouldn't take any damage back from them. Of course, they could attack me with melee if they wanted to, and, you know, they're barbarians. So that's the kind of stuff that they do. So, back to the science victory. The way the science victory works is... well, there's some barbarians for me to kill. The way the science victory works is you have to complete so much of the tech tree and get to a point where you can build the 6 required parts of the spaceship. Now, if I open the tech tree, I'm going to look all the way down towards the far end of it, and hopefully I can find some. So if we look here, particle physics allows us to build the SS engine. Nanotechnology allows us to build the SS stasis chamber. And then we've got the SS cockpit from satellite. So there's 3 of the parts. And then you have the SS booster from advanced ballistics. And you need to build 3 of those. And all of these are completed after you research the Apollo program, which is part of rocketry in the atomic era. So once you've got your research up and you have been able to research and manufacture all of these parts, what will happen then is you will take them to your capital city and start to assemble them. And as you assemble them, you will see the parts you need here will get highlighted. And once you've assembled all 6 parts, the rocket will launch, and that's it, game over, you've won a scientific victory. So it's very, very difficult for somebody else to stop a scientific victory unless they actually come into your city and start trying to destroy your capital wherever you're building the ship, or just try and destroy the ship directly. Let's go and take that out. And that should get the camp for us. These guys are kind of out on their own now. They've got nowhere to go. Somebody had a promotion. It was probably them, actually. I should have done it on that turn. And my workers are going to just put back onto automation now that the barbarians have gone away. And they can carry on going around and upgrading the land. Somebody else has started another pantheon, but yet I don't know who that's going to be, so we'll find out very shortly. So, let's look at the other victory types. The next one I should probably talk about is the diplomatic victory. In order to get a diplomatic victory, you have to be voted as the world leader. And there are several steps to doing this. It's like we found another barbarian camp. Right, we've got a unit promotion, lots of stuff going on here. Right, let's promote these guys up and give them advantages in open terrain. Let's instantly go and kill these guys here. That's good. Not sure where that other camp was. Oh, it's right over there. We could go and help these guys and take them out. So let's go and do that. We've crossed over a river, so it's used all of our movement just to move 1 space. And our caravan is finished, so we will now start to build our settler. It is going to take 8 turns, and during those 8 turns, Edinburgh won't grow any, but we do need to start a second city. We've also managed to build our first caravan, So as you can see now, we have one of one trade routes, and we need to set that trade route up. Now, when you've got a caravan, which is normally a camel in the early days, also if you have a city on the coast and you have a harbour, you can set up trade routes between them. So I can change the home city where this trade route belongs to. I've only got one city, so there's no point doing that. And then I can click Establish Trade Route. Now at the moment, I only have two places I can trade with, Florence and Mombasa. Now, if I had found any of the other civilizations' territory, I'd be able to trade between their cities. And if I had more than one city of my own, I'd be able to trade between those. The maximum range that you can travel at the moment is 10 hexes. So whichever one of these cities I trade with, it isn't going to make a lot of difference. I'm going to get 1 gold per turn from doing it. They're going to receive 1 gold per turn also, but that doesn't really matter because they're city-states and therefore they're not really going to be fighting against me. At least not yet. So while that's going on, as I was saying, first thing you need to do is produce the World Congress. And in order to do that, at least one civilization has to have met all of the other civilizations and completed research into the printing press. Once that is done, you can actually start down the diplomatic path. Now, once a civilization reaches the information era, or if more than half of the civilizations reach the atomic era, the World Congress gets upgraded to the United Nations. And it's only once the United Nations are in play that you actually have a chance of winning a diplomatic victory. The way that the United Nations works is they will have a vote for... what's going on here? Someone's completed great works. Looks like there's... where are we? 6 on the list. Not good. We're quite low on the scores at the moment. But we have found another natural wonder. Mount Kilimanjaro. Really coming across these greatly. So, where was I? Yeah, United Nations. Every sort of other time... We haven't got it on there, so I can't actually show you. Every time you get to vote on something, the first time it happens, you'll be able to vote on a referendum, such as acting in an embargo or starting a world fair or something like that. The second time there's a vote, it will be to vote for a new world leader. And every civilization always votes for themselves, because there's no point in voting for another civilization. Why would you? If you do that, you'll be throwing the vote away. In order to win, you have to get the majority of the votes. So you have to get more, or half, or more than half of all of the votes there are. Now, because each civilization only has a very limited number of votes, it means in order to get more than half of the votes, you have to get the additional votes from the city-states. This is why becoming friendly with city-states is very important. Now, this type of victory lends itself better to civilizations that can do well with trade or make a lot of money, because you can literally bribe the city-states to ally with you. You can also use the espionage mechanic to kind of stage coups d'etats at various different city-states and get them to switch their ally over to you. And as the game progresses and you advance through the different eras, you will be given more delegates to vote with in the United Nations. But the only way you're really going to win is to get the vast majority of the city-states on your side, because for every city-state that is an ally with you gives you an extra vote in the United Nations that you control. And that is ultimately what you need to be able to win that type of victory. Once a world leader has been decided on, that's it. The game ends. Whoever got voted in as the world leader becomes the winner of the game. So there's not a lot going on down here at the moment. I'm just posturing with these barbarians while I'm waiting for a few other things to complete. So that leaves us with 2 more victory types. There's the cultural victory and there is the domination victory. Now, the cultural victory has changed a little bit in Brave New World, but it's Brave New World that I'm going to talk about because that's the version of the game we're playing now. And in all honesty, Brave New World adds that much to the game. It is much better to get Brave New World. It improves so many things, it's well worth having. I'm just going to quickly start my next lot of research, and I'm going to go for writing as well here quickly, just because that will allow me to build libraries, which will give me additional science, which means I can research things faster. Unit needs orders, which is these guys, so we're just going to keep bombarding on this barbarian camp until we've killed all the barbarians in it, and then we're going to try and move into it and capture it. So what we have here, you can see we have a culture overview. Now we already know that we gain culture for having various buildings and various sort of great works, and as we gain culture, it not only expands our borders but also allows us to adopt certain social policies. But if we click on the culture overview, which is this little button up here that looks like a musical note with a paintbrush and a writer's quill, as you can see at the moment, it tells us how much culture we're generating. We're generating 6. We can't see anybody else's on here. And if we look on Culture Victory, we can see all of the different civilizations that we've met. Now, both ourselves and Germany aren't influential over any of the other 7 civilizations, and that is because we don't actually have any tourism. You see the little suitcase there, our tourism is actually 0. Now we would gain some extra tourism if we had a great work in this available slot. We've got the palace, which as I said is the default building that you start with in your capital city, and you can put a great work in there. If I was to put a great work in there, I would actually be generating tourism. And the way it works simply is this. You have to it's a little bit more complicated than this, but this is the basic way that it works. Your tourism is your ability to attack another civilization with your culture, and your culture is your defense against it. So in order to convert another civilization to your culture and become influential over them, you need to get your tourism to be higher than their culture. Because if your tourism's higher than their culture, then you're putting more cultural pressure on them than they can defend against. And you have to do that to all of the other civilizations and become influential with all of them in order to be able to win the game with a cultural victory. Now there are a few other things that allow you to get quick boosts to that, such as for example if you manage to produce a great musician, you can take that great musician into another civilization's territory and get them to perform a concert, and that will actually give you a one-time boost of culture influence in their civilization, and hopefully that's something that I will be able to show you as the game progresses on. So that's how you win a cultural victory. A little bit more complicated than it was in Gods and Kings and in Vanilla Civilization 5, because all you had to do there was literally complete 5 of these social policies and completely fill the tree, and then build the Utopia project, which was a button down here in the bottom corner. That has now been removed. So it's a little bit more complex. And you generate all this extra culture and extra tourism by having things like great works and later on digging up artifacts from archaeological sites, and that's something that we'll go into when we get to that as well. So it's quite an interesting little mechanic for that one, but we'll cover that in more detail. The 5th and final type of victory condition is the Domination Victory. Now that's more of a military victory, but it's not quite as complicated as it sounds. Composite bowmen, let's give them an upgrade for rough terrain, because I'm probably going to be keeping them in the trees quite a lot. So the way it works with the Domination Victory is, and again if we look on our victory progress, Domination Victory, it says all players are still in control of their original capitals, and that is basically how you win a Domination Victory. The last player to be in, or the last civilization to be in control of their original capital city wins a Domination Victory. Now if you capture somebody's capital, or your capital gets captured, if you have a second city, or a third or a fourth, it doesn't matter, as long as you have more than one city, if your capital gets captured, then your capital city moves to one of your others, usually the one with the next highest population. However, your starting city is classed as your original capital city. You can capture it back, so even if you do get your capital city captured, as long as it doesn't get razed, it is possible to capture it back. It's also possible for another player to capture it from the player who captured it from you, and liberate it, giving it back to you. And again, that's a mechanic I'd like to cover later on as well. So if you're the last player left to control your capital city, then you will win a domination victory. Now, this doesn't mean that you have to go around and capture all of the other civilizations' capitals. You just have to be the last person in control of yours. So look at it this way. We have a map with 8 civilizations. Now, let's just say, for example, that we have 2 human players and 6 AI. So you've got player 1, player 2, and the 6 AI. And let's say, for example, I'm player 1. Player 2 goes out, and player 2 captures the original capital cities of all 6 of the AI civilizations. So now the only 2 players left who have control of their original capitals is myself and player 2. All I have to do is capture player 2's capital city, and I win a domination victory, because I would be the last civilization to be in control of my original capital. So getting a domination victory isn't as difficult as it sounds, and it's often better to let somebody else do the majority of the work and you just go in and clean up afterwards. Because the way this game works is if you start deciding to attack people, you're soon going to find that other civilizations will start attacking you. Now, unfortunately, we've just had some archers turn up here, which is not a good thing for me. I was sure there was another barbarian camp down there. Clearly, there still is. I want to take my settlers down to this space, but I've got to be careful because I don't want them to get killed by these archers. So I'm going to take them this way, so they're out of the way. I'm going to click on Edinburgh. And the problem I'm going to have is if I try and build a warrior, it's going to take 3 turns, which isn't ideal. I have 256 gold, which means I could buy a warrior, and that's what I'm going to do. It's a little bit of a waste spending money to do that, but it does give me the best chance of being able to try and catch up with these guys and take them out quickly. In the meantime, I am going to produce Stonehenge, and the reason for that is I want to get to a point where I can found a religion, and my bonuses as Boudica and the Celts is very much a religious one. So I'm going to aim for that for the time being until I sort of aim for what type of victory I want to go for. So let's next turn it up. So they are the 5 different victory types. Most people don't aim for a time victory or aim for a score victory. Luckily my workers just moved out of the way there, but I'm going to attack these guys with the city and bombard them with that. I'm also going to then attack them with my warriors. They probably won't be able to take them all out, but they'll do a significant amount of damage to them. There's 1 guy left, and yeah, they should be alright. I'm going to move my settlers down here, and I'll move my warriors with them shortly. So probably can't quite get to that yet, but let's move into position, ready for it on the next turn. These guys have all healed up, so let's have a quick look over here, actually. Yep, nothing there. Didn't think there would be, but it was well worth checking. Can't do anything about them on this turn. So, yeah, there we go. I've managed to cover the 5 different types of victory condition. They're healing up a little bit. They've pillaged my... let's get back over here. They've pillaged my... sort of camp here, which is a little bit of a pain. Of course, that can be repaired by the workers. It's not the end of the day. Just going to have a look. My warriors, this will be a decisive victory. I'm going to get my warriors to kill them instead of the city, because my warriors will get the XP from it, whereas the city wouldn't. I'm going to move my workers over here. They're out of units this movement this turn, but I'm going to move them over there, and they can actually repair it, so it doesn't matter too much if things get pillaged. Going to leave my settlers there this turn. These guys can take the barbarian camp, which is fantastic. That's another 25 gold. And you can see my influence with Florence is really going up now. And let's have a look. They've still got 1 more movement turn. Let's start moving them back. Now, as I said, it costs 2 movement to move through a forest. But as long as you have at least 1 movement, you can move into the next tile. So even though it costs 2 movement to move through a forest, because I had 1 movement, it'll still let me move into the tile. So you're never going to be in a position where you've got a movement point but not be allowed to move. So that's what's happened there. Now, I don't want my settlers to do anything on this turn. You can see we've got a number of options here. We can move. We can put them to sleep, which basically means that the computer will ignore them until I click on them and tell them to do something. Or we can tell them to do nothing for this turn, which is default the space key, and that means they'll now not be counted. It's not telling me I've got to give them orders because I've told them not to do anything this turn, and then on the next turn they will wake up again and I'll be able to do something with them. It's also telling me I should probably build another city around here somewhere, which is not a bad idea and is something that I will do a little bit later on, but I'm not interested in doing that just yet. We've got our warriors. We're going to promote them. Now, we're going through a lot of forest, so I'm going to give them the drill upgrade. And these guys are going to escort my settlers all the way down to where they're going to build. We're going to get our workers over here, and then on the next turn we're going to get them to repair this improvement. We're going to carry on bringing our archers down now. We've done with them up there. They've done their job. So, one of the reasons I'm doing this video, apart from just the fact, you know, it's just fun for me to film it while I'm playing, is that although the game does have quite an extensive manual, and it has some great tutorials, and it also has a great tutorial mode called Learn As You Play. The problem with the Learn As You Play tutorial mode is it often relies on you exploring the interface and clicking things before it tells you what they do. So for example, if you look under the additional information, you can see you've got this massive list of various different things that you can see, such as your demographics, for example. Now, the Learn As You Play tutorial would never tell you what this demographic menu did. It would never even tell you where it was. If you found it and clicked on it, it would pop up and go, oh yeah, you've just found the demographics panel and this is what everything means. But you'd have to go off on your own and find it first. So while I'm here, just quickly show you what this is. This is a very quick look just to show you what your rank is at the various individual things that you can score points from. So I have the second highest population out of all 8 civilizations. I have one of the lowest crop yields. I'm not the 8th, so at least it's not too bad, but I'm very, very near the bottom. Manufactured goods, so that's going to be things like furs and stuff like that. I'm 3rd. GNP is your gross national profit, so who's making the most money. So I'm 2nd there, so I'm apparently not doing too bad on the old cash. 7th on land. I have been a little bit slow expanding. I'm just about to set up my 2nd city, so we'll probably jump up quite a little bit doing that. Don't really have the biggest army. I'm only 5th. Approval is basically the happiness that you have from your civilization. I'm 3rd. And literacy, which basically goes on the amount of science you have, I'm 2nd. So someone is a little bit more technologically advanced than me. And you can see what my value is compared to the best, compared to the worst, and compared to the average. Doesn't tell us who is who, because we haven't discovered everybody yet. So at least we know none of these are Germany. But as you can see, this is number of people, so we have 1,500 people, 150,000 people, 18 million bushels of crops, 11 million tons of manufactured goods. Apparently we have 13 million gold. This also, I think, counts the value of everything you own as well as the actual gold you have in the treasury itself. And it tells you how many soldiers, the land, and what our approval rating is. So that's the demographic screen, always quite handy. Now let's have a look at the technology tree, because I've been popping research here, there and everywhere just to try and get things sort of done. As you can see, you've got a key here on the left hand side. Tells you which ones aren't available yet because they have a prerequisite. The one that's bubbling is currently researching, which at the moment is none because we're not researching anything. And then the gold ones are done and the green ones are ones that we can do. So what I could do with here is either masonry or bronze working, really, because that would allow me to construct quarries and remove jungle now, and clear marshes as well. Don't have many marshes nearby. Might be nice if I can remove the remove jungles. It would also give me my Pictish warrior, which is my civilization unique unit, and it's pointless me leaving that until sort of too far down the line. So I'm going to go for bronze working, and that's going to be my next one. These guys are just going to repair the improvement. That's going to take them 2 turns. I'm going to move my warriors down onto the same unit as my settlers, which is fine because you've got a combat unit and a non-combat unit, and they are both stacked, which is perfectly fine. The settlers need orders. I'm going to tell them to skip this turn. I don't want them to move because they are waiting for their warrior escort, and we are going to move on to the next turn. So yeah, this is the reason why I am doing this video, just because I feel that as good as the in-game tutorial is, there's a lot it doesn't tend to explain to you, and I wanted to try and cover everything and cover how it works. And we have met the Egyptians. Now, we don't know where the Egyptians are. They could be an awfully long... We've discovered quite a bit of ground down there. I assume that's just my scouts have been off exploring. Yeah, there they are. They've been doing an absolutely wonderful job. But yeah, we've run into some Egyptian warriors, but we don't currently know where the Egyptians are. At least that means it's 2 players we've found. The Egyptians' civilization bonus gives them, I think it's an extra 25% construction when they are building wonders. And Germany's civilization bonus is something called Fura Teutonicus, I believe, which means if they attack a barbarian camp, there's a 50-50 chance, as well as the 25 gold, that the barbarians will also turn sides and fight for the Germans. Also, I believe they get a 25% reduction in the maintenance cost of military units as well. Because every military unit that you have has a maintenance cost and costs you gold per turn. If you highlight your mouse over the sort of gold that you have at the top, you can see my total expenses. It says 6 gold spent on unit maintenance. So that's because I'm paying gold per turn in wages, essentially, to these units. So let's have a look what needs moving. Let's start moving some stuff down to cover our city. Maybe going to cover this area here. We could always build our 3rd city over here. And we can now move our settlers and warriors down. Still in forest, so it's only going to be a turn at a time, but it shouldn't take us too long to do that. So, another thing to remember with your resources such as your research points and gold are generated in a number of ways. They can be generated gold from things like trade routes. Also, certain building improvements in your cities and wonders can improve your gold. Same goes for science. It's awarded for certain buildings and also certain upgrades on various tiles. Now, all of your science goes into this one sort of pot, because when you research something, you're only ever researching one thing at a time. So that is your sort of science per turn pot. And all of your gold goes into one pot as well. But construction or production is per city. Each city has its own production, and this is why it's useful to have more than one city. Not only that, it means if you're attacked and you lose a city, at least you've got a backup plan. So we're going to try and move our settlers down. Still, we're moving up a hill, which is rough terrain, so it still gives us a movement penalty. So in the next couple of turns, we'll be able to set that up. I'm going to put these workers back onto automate now. They've gone and fixed that. And now we've got these dyes. They can go and construct plantations. I'm going to get 2 dyes out of this. One of those dyes I will be able to trade with somebody else, and that will give me an extra little bit of happiness. And I think I'm just going to put these guys on alert. Now, what alert does is essentially the same as fortify. Actually, no, I'm going to pick fortify, because if I pick alert, every time somebody else comes near, they will wake up. So putting them on fortify means it isn't going to keep constantly asking me to move them. You can see their icons turned into this shield, which means they've been fortified. They'll take, if they get attacked on this turn, they'll take 25% less damage, because you have a 25% defensive bonus on the turn which you fortify. If they get attacked on any subsequent turn, they'll take 50% less damage. I'm not expecting them to get attacked, but at least, you know, that's the best state to leave them in if you're not going to do anything else with them. So let's hit next turn. Public declaration from Egypt. They are now protecting Florence. Yeah, that was very bold of them. So yeah, we're going to have to watch for Egypt. They could very easily try and get a diplomatic victory here, but never mind. Just want to make sure that this area is completely clear of barbarians so that I can get my other city over here when I eventually decide to build one. We're going to move our settlers down here. We could move our warriors down there as well. I think we probably will on this turn, because we can't actually settle the city on this turn. we'll hit the next turn just so we can get our second city settled. It's quite difficult to say. And then once that's done, I can end this video. So what I would like to say, if any of you have any particular questions, if there's any particular... Oh, look how close we are to barbarians. One thing I can do here, which is great, is if I instantly found my city right here, right now, then I can instantly fire on those barbarians because they're within 2 hexes, which isn't too bad. Dublin should be okay there for now. We need to produce something there. We're probably going to go for the Granary because that will actually increase the amount of food, which will mean we can grow the city faster. So, as I was saying, if you guys have any particular questions, if there's any particular part of the game that you're not really unsure of, or you're not really sure of how it works, or you want a bit more explanation of it, by all means ask, leave it in the comments below or send me a message. I'll try and answer it as best as I can within the videos, but it might be something that is best demonstrated, and therefore it might be something that I can't cover until I get a little bit further into the game and I can actually show you how that particular thing works. It is a little bit difficult for me to try and explain how everything works within the game because I can only aim really for one particular type of victory or another. I can't really show you everything you can do in one game, and there's just so much you can do, particularly with the Brave New World expansion. So when we come back next time, we're going to be watching out for these barbarians that have just turned up here on my northwest borders, so we'll probably have to bring our archers back over here to take care of them, and we need to wipe out this barbarian camp down here, which shouldn't be too bad, but we'll have some more dies, we'll have some sheep, and we will have some horses, so we'll finally have a strategic resource that we can use. And we shall carry on from there and start looking at some of the other topics in the game. So guys, thanks a lot for watching. I hope you're still enjoying this video series. I always have fun playing Civ 5, and the only thing I enjoy more than playing it is rambling on about it because it is one of my favourite grand strategies of all times. So until next time, goodbye for now.